Fantasy Six Pack Hour with your hosts, Joe Bond and AJ Applegarth.
All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, sitting across the table, AJ Applegarth. We are in the same room, if you guys haven't figured that one out yet.
Indeed.
We've been meaning to do this for a long time, but then this joker moved away, and yeah, NCAA March Madness has started. We used to watch all the games together, so we made a special trip down here. So how's it going on, man?
Not much.
Yeah.
Doing all right.
You know,
Repping my new S6P swag.
We're like
the Raglan shirt. We got the nice hat. I mean, this thing is choice, man. It is comfortable.
They are nice. They are definitely nice. I got my caramel one on. I thought was orange. Wrong. But it looks good. If you guys want to rep any of this stuff, we do have a store, fantasysixpack.net/store, I believe, or shop. I don't know, one of those. It's been a while since I've been to it, but it's on the website somewhere. But anyway, tonight we're going to be covering our pitching preview. We've got a great guest in line for you for that. Before we jump into that, though, make sure you hit those subscribe and those like buttons. Give us those reviews. Leave those comments. We love hearing from you guys, and helps us out a tremendous amount. And make sure you go over to fantasysixpack.net/plan to become an all-access member. The fantasy baseball season is almost here. We are 2 weeks away. It is almost here. It is time to get on get access to our draft cheat sheets, which I will be updating tonight or tomorrow with the new projections. I did the latest ADP last night, so all of that will be there. And then we have the most accurate rankings in the industry on our site. Keith Lott, number 1 in the fantasy baseball draft rankings. I was number 6. Travis was number 10. The only site to have 3 in the top 10 over there on Fantasy Pros. So if you want access to our full rankings, you need to go become an all-access member to see those. And then best of all, guys, honestly, I think this is the best value of it all. We have a Discord channel, which is going to have it's free. So if you go to the site and you find the link to the Discord there, it's free to join. And there's some rooms there that, we're all talking, having a good time. You guys can talk amongst yourself, whatever. And then we've got premium channels where we share special content. We do AMAs and all that stuff. And you can ask us specific league questions for your league that our analysts will answer. So that's it. To my opinion, that's invaluable. Like all season long, you're going to have access to us to ask us trade questions, waiver questions, start sit stuff. But anyway, fantasysixpack.net/plans. Use promo code F6PMLB for 15% off. All the links will be in the show description, so make sure you check those out if you need them. And then again, the baseball season's almost here. And if you haven't done so already, you need to do it. You need to switch your leagues to Fantrax. It's the best place to play fantasy baseball, in my opinion. AJ, you agree?
I'm scanning my league because I'm back up in the Fantasy Six Pack series here. So
it is absolutely the best place to play. I mean, other than it just being the best place to play, they've got tons of giveaways that they're doing if you move your league over. One is they're handing out a Vlad Guerrero signed jersey.
Nice.
The other one is they will send you and your league mates to a game of your choice anywhere. They pay for the entire thing. It's like up to $1,000 or something like that. I just heard your ding of the draft go off here because we're connected to the same mic and the same audio. So I'm hearing his computer audio. It's driving me nuts, actually. But anyway, Fantrax is the place to play. It really is. The most customizable settings for free. Fantrax.com/fantasy6pack and create your free account today. So without further ado, though, let's jump into our show here and bring on our guest, Michael Schneider, a fantasy baseball analyst for Fantasy Six Pack. You do our tremendous prospect rankings. Those are phenomenal. You just launched those like a week ago? For this year, the new crop, and you'll be updating those all season long, along with some articles, kind of sprinkled in to give some updates as well. So, how you doing tonight, man?
Great. How are you?
Good.
Doing well. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So we're going to be covering pitchers, but we should do our favorite segment first, and that is Beer of the Week.
Beer.
All right, Michael, what you got for us tonight?
I have a Guinness Foreign Extra Stout. St. Patrick's Day tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
hell yeah, man! That's the way to roll.
That's why I got the green. Sport the green for the Raglan here. I myself am drinking a local to Joe, a place I've been to as well, the Brookville Beer Farm. Mm-hmm. This is a limited edition. It's called Meadows Mist. It's a hazy IPA with Galaxy and Mosaic hops. Just
turn the little spindle on my chair.
Yep.
Yeah, this week. Don't do that.
Yeah. Duly noted. The things we learn when we record together. Hazy IPA, Galaxy Mosaic. It's pretty tasty.
Dave, we know.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
We know.
Yeah. Do you want to come right here?
No. Dave Eddie commenting that we look very cute sitting there.
Plenty of room for you, Dave.
Yeah.
Lean back.
Your leg may have enough room, but I don't know if the camera has enough room.
You and oh man.
Shots fired.
In your baby belly. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm drinking a Kushwa. This is what you had on the show last week, I believe. Right?
Yep.
You brought me your last
strong
one. Burn Slow New England style triple IPA, and it is definitely a triple IPA. It tastes like a triple IPA. It's heavy. It's pungent. It's good. It's very strong. This will be a slow sipper.
Yes.
Slower. And now I know where the name comes from.
Oh yeah.
Cheers, man.
Cheers on camera.
All right. So let's jump into things here, Michael. So we're going to start with starting pitching and then do some relievers at near the end. But with our starting pitching, we're just going to ask a generic strategy question to start here. And, kind of what is your, you're going into a draft, your typical strategy for attacking the starting pitching position. And, I know you play a little bit on NFBC as well. So maybe kind of give us the difference for your pitching strategy when it comes to your home league that might be 12 teams and then like the NFBC style, like 15 teamers, and break it down that way.
Well, I think in an NFBC style league, you really can't afford to get too far behind. So you have to make sure that you're taking 3 to 4 starting pitchers for every 10 rounds. Whereas, like for example, I'm in the fantasy 6-pack 12-team league on Fantrax, and in that league, I'm really focusing on offense. I got 2 top starting pitchers in DeGrom and Woodruff. I got a couple up and comers in Grayson Rodriguez and Brown on the Astros, as well as Luzardo. But I'm really keeping my starting pitching to a minimum in that league, focusing on offense, and gonna do planning to do a lot of streaming during the season, looking at matchups.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I've been kind of doing the same thing. It feels like even in the 15 team like NFBC stuff, I tend to go, I want to get at least like one top end arm, at least one just like anchor, and then I might back it up with like maybe like a guy a tier or 2 later to kind of just get a solid foundation, and then I'm picking and choosing. I just try to find guys that aren't going to destroy my ratios later as the draft goes on. Like that's always been a big bugaboo for me, especially in like the industry leagues, TGFBIs and stuff like that. I tend to go for like the high upside, high strikeout guys, and then they just blow up, and my ERA is in like 4.5, and I'm just like, all right, I'm out, done. So go I tend to target, a couple lockdown guys who I can totally trust the entire season. And then, I hope I can trust them all year long. But, the guys that I sprinkle in throughout the draft, I just try to go for ratios more than anything. AJ, what you got?
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it too. I definitely like to have one strong anchor pitcher in the Fantasy Six-Pack Series League. I kind of got on the wrong end of the first big run of pitching, but I still ended up with Woodruff, who was on my list of, those first couple tier guys I wanted to get. So I ended up with him. I was happy with that. And then I got hit on the back end of another one. But, so I don't necessarily love my pitching there, but I kind of went hard on hitters. Really what I'm looking for in that league, though, is because it's Roto, I'm looking for the Ks. I'm looking for the good ratios. And I like to, we're talking about pitching in general, so starters and relievers. I like to load up on relievers, depending on the league setup, because I'm not too worried about wins in most of my leagues anymore. We're doing the QA3 in Fantasy.
Quality appearance, yeah 3.
So, quality starts is starting to go by the wayside now too. So I like finding those late flyer guys that, when they get blown up, it can hurt you. But, at the same time, if it's only one inning or, 2 innings max and they do well, then your ratios are right in line where they need to be, as long as they can keep control down and, keep the damage down. So it seems like I'm different every league I do. It depends on if it's points or Roto or whatnot.
Well, yeah, I think typically we're talking categories. Yeah, points leagues is a completely different ball game, in my opinion. So, all right, moving on.
All right, so speaking of number one guys here, this top tier or so, like I said, we got Cole, we got Burns, we got Alcantara, Woodruff, Strider,
etc.
Just
listed a few names and stopped.
These are the usual suspects that we're seeing here. So, who's the top starting pitcher that you're most likely to draft this year, and why, Michael?
Well, I was in this very position yesterday in a draft championship that it was in. It's the second round, the 18th pick of the overall, and no pitcher had been off the board. And I went back and forth with Cole and Burns, and finally drafted Cole. I just think he's the floor is higher for him. He's just so steady. He's going to get the strikeouts. He's had good health. So, in my opinion, it's Cole.
Dave, you hate pitchers. And I was actually listening to, and it went up today, the On Deck Circle pod with Jason and Nick. Nick has this. We've all heard of like zero RB. He is legit doing zero pitcher, which is hilarious.
It's bold strategy, Cotton.
I'll see. Some of the pitchers he gets, he's like, I will not take a pitcher in the first 8 or 9 rounds, and you're like, whoa. But he still gets some solid arms because he slows his entire offense, and then he can just go pitcher. And he starts getting a bunch of those middle tier guys, and at the end you're like, that's probably not going to work, but it's interesting to see.
It's not the worst idea I've seen. I don't know if I'd say it's the best either, but
yeah, Michael. So it's funny that you mentioned the Cole and Burns argument. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, no, it's hands down, it's Burns. Cole wasn't good last year or whatever. He kind of regressed a little bit last year, and people were frustrated with him.
I was early, but he was still solid.
Yeah, just the strikeout numbers he gives you makes his overall value it carries him just enough to where it puts him over Burns still, in my opinion. And it seems like you agree with that, Michael.
Yeah, he one thing I noticed last year, he had outings where it seemed like he was in complete control and in good shape, and then all of a sudden he would have a really bad inning. But I still think that you can't go wrong with Cole. That overall, he's going to put up big numbers for the year.
He was my my keeper and just ran out of contract time with him, so it's kind of sad to see him go. But I'm interested to see how this year goes, though.
It was the first year.
There's a lot of.
I had to throw back Acuna and Eloy and
a lot of retreads.
Next year's going to be even more interesting. I was going through it, and there's a lot of other dudes who have the 3.
Yeah,
and I'm like, this is fun. This is what I was waiting for. I knew this would be the fun part. So a guy that we specifically left off that SP1 conversation just a second ago is Jacob DeGrom. Now, I think we all agree that, yes, he is an SP1 when he's on the field. The problem is he hasn't been on the field, right? He's pitched a total of 28 games in the last 3 seasons combined. How do you what is your thought process on him in drafts? Like, are you just like, I'm out because he's still going? It's like, in some cases, like 5th, 6th, 7th pitcher off the board. Like, he's still going very, very high where, that injury risk is also very high with him.
Sure. The one draft that I've gotten him in this year, well, actually, I've gotten him two drafts. The first one was in a draft championship where he was available in the 3rd round. And I thought at that point it made sense to take him. And then I also drafted him in the fantasy 6-pack draft where we'll have an injured list if he gets hurt, he can just put him on the injured list.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely helps. I mean, he is, arguably the best pitcher in baseball when he's on the field. I mean, he's.
I don't think there's much of an argument. He is.
I mean, he's absolutely dominant when he's on the field. It's just, I know in a dynasty league that I'm in, my team's kind of crummy, and so I started the rebuild process last year, and I have had DeGrom and sold him for like Volpe and some other like top end prospects. I mean, I think I got like Volpe and Corbin Carroll out of that trade. It was pretty phenomenal. It was like, okay. So I definitely pulled the trigger on that one. But I mean, it's tough. Like him and then Chris Sale I sold this year too for a couple other top end prospects. I mean, those guys won me so many championships because I had both of them. I mean, for the years they were just like utterly dominant. So it's tough for me, it's a tough pill to swallow to like draft him almost knowing that the injury is coming at some point with him. And then you're just like, man, I just burnt my 3rd round pick or 4th round pick at worst on a guy who might, as of lately has given you not even 10 starts in a season. That's the tough pill to swallow. So I have passed on him and let somebody else jump on that possible grenade and taken some of these other guys who are not as good, but are going to be just fine and probably on the field more.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think, take his rookie year out of this and then every year after that. So 2015 up till last year, there's only 2 years that he still hasn't been in the Cy Young voting. I mean, that says a lot, especially because, with the last 3 years, he just hasn't played. So, I'm sorry, the last 2, but then, 3. 2020's in there. So that kind of,
Yeah, he was still hurt, though.
Negates it a little bit. Yeah, but he was still hurt.
He was still.
But, 2018, 2019, he wins the Cy Young. He leads the leagues in strikeouts at 19. Leads the league in ERA and 18. I mean, 2.55 and then 1.7. I mean, 1.7 ERA. That is unheard of, I feel like. And
that was pretty
even guys that are getting into the 2s at this point, which I don't think there's many. I mean, low threes, I feel like is good now. So I'm also on board with just letting him go somewhere else and just taking my luck somewhere else. So two guys who I think I'd take before him, maybe, or
but also in that conversation of injury,
kind of in the same category here. One, his former teammate, Mr. Max Scherzer, and last year's Cy Young winner, just Verlander. I mean, when are the wheels going to fall off of these guys? Former teammates, both Cy Young, both solid pitchers throughout their careers. Is this the year? Is this the year that they just fall flat?
Well, Verlander had a spring training game. I think it was yesterday where he looked completely dominant. I think he had 8 strikeouts.
Tom Brady of
40
years old.
I mean, is that it? Is that what you got? You just got to marry a supermodel, and then you're like, you're in swimsuit editions for years, and
they do know how to stay young.
Now I get to look at you in person. I don't know. Sorry to interrupt, Michael, but that had to be said. The Tom Brady reference, it's the models. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean they're both so smart, and they really just very, very tough, and just seem to sometimes will themselves to success. I
mean, so where are you okay targeting these guys at their ADP, or do you see if are you okay jumping a little earlier than ADP to get one of them?
I haven't not gotten much this year. I got Scherzer in one draft where I thought he went late. That was back in November. I think it was in the 5th round. And I haven't got any shares of Verlander this year. It's just been more focused on Woodruff has been the guy that I've really been targeting this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the cheat sheet doesn't like them as much as the ADP does. So I have not gotten very many shares of either one. And I guess maybe it's, some of the projections, maybe build in some of the possible regression with age and injuries and things like that. It does like Scherzer a lot more. So he might, if I do get one, it would probably be him. My gut tells me though, Verlander is probably the one to go after more. Just like he was so damn good last year. Like, it's crazy to think that, you're talking about crazy ERAs. 1.75 last year. I mean, he pulled the DeGrom. He did it. Like that was, and he did it at 39. That's absolutely insane to think about. So I think both of these guys are ultimately going to be fine. It is always in the back of your mind, like when will it fall off? And
37.
And now I'm of the mindset where I'd rather be a year too early in not buying in than a year too late. Like I don't want to take the risk on a 40-year-old pitcher that early in a draft where I know there's other guys going around him who could be very, very good and productive. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, he's not very good. And then you look at it like, oh, well, we should have saw that coming. He was 40. Like,
why did I think this was going to not be this way?
That's kind of my thought process there.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I do really think they're going to be perfectly fine and very, very productive pitchers. So
I mean, Scherzer's still sitting under a 3 RA every year except 2020, back to 2015.
Well, so he's been having like random injury problems too.
He's got little ticky-tack things that crop
like
almost
Kershaw
every
type
year.
thing.
I mean, he pitched 145 and a third last year.
Yep.
2021, obviously, he was out a lot. Only had 68 and a third. So, yeah, I mean, he's kind of like, he hasn't pitched 200 innings since 18.
I feel like he started having like neck problems or whatever.
Yeah,
was that what it was?
That's what it was.
So there is always really that concern that those are going to keep coming up. And as somebody who's got neck and back problems, I know that they just keep coming back, and they're very, very hard to get rid of. But
yeah,
let's move on here. There's two different guys here, and two, in my opinion, very different injuries. But Lance McCullers and Joe Musgrove, two very talented pitchers when they're on the field. But both dealing with injuries. Joe Musgrove has the toe, and he is now starting to like ramp up and throw off a mound. So maybe he's closer. Lance McCullers has not even started throwing yet, and so he's been dealing with injuries for feels like forever.
Yeah.
Where are you comfortable drafting some of these already injured pitchers? Knowing that they are you can draft them at a huge discount in drafts right now. Are you interested in taking on guys like that, or are you just like a hard pass if they're already injured? I'm just going to start the year healthy with my team.
Well, if you get a good enough discount, you certainly have to consider them. I don't think the injury to Musgrove is going to have too much of an impact on his season. He may lose a few starts in April, but I think he should be good to go after that. McCullers is much more of a question, and I would need much more of a much larger discount before I would consider.
He went super late in my Raz Slam league to the point where like I had already drafted Musgrove. I drafted like a Gerrit Whitlock, and I'm looking at McCullers still, and it's like the late 20-ish rounds, and I'm like, oh, I mean, there's nothing else on the board, but like, can I take on another injured player in a best ball format? Like that seems really tough for me to pull the trigger on. I might regret it, but it just feels like we literally have no idea when he's going to come back. And we just know he's dealing with a strain of the forearm muscle, like very low grade. But I mean, when you hear like strain of the forearm, mind goes straight to Tommy John. So like you just never know. I mean, he dealt with injuries last year for pretty much the entire season. So that was, again, he just doesn't seem like he's all the way back. I'm kind of out on McCullers. Musgrove, he's still discounted because people still just see that injury note next to his name and they panic and they don't want to do it. But I'm much more inclined to draft him. The only worry, and I want to get your thought on this, is like it is his plant foot toe. So you wonder like could he like totally re-aggravate that, very easily in a game if he just like steps wrong or slips or something like that, and then he's right back on the IL or something.
Yeah, I mean, sure that it's I guess it's a possibility, but I'm sure they have good doctors and going to make sure that he's fully healthy before he takes the mound, because it's a long season, and the games in April are not important in the scheme of the whole season.
Yeah, and I mean, Jason and I just did ADP movers shows that are up on our YouTube channel, and he was one of the ones who his round value has dropped his ADP has dropped like 20 something spots since March. So maybe it's going up now that we're hearing good news, but as of a couple of days ago, it was still overall down like 20 something spots. So, and he's in like the 100, 110 range for ADP. And I feel like that's a very, very good value for Joe Musgrove.
Yeah, it is.
I like Musgrove's value where it's coming in right now. The thing that worries me with him is that he may miss these, April games. Well, last year, I mean, he was unstoppable in April and March. He had a 12 and a half strikeouts per win. And it dropped significantly to 367 for May, back up a little bit in June, 425. July it went back down. August it came back up, but September, October it was down again. So he started off super hot last year.
Yes, he did.
And then he just faded.
Yeah, the summer months were not kind to him.
No. So, I mean, that worries me a little bit. But if I can get him at a discount, hope that he still comes back and shows those signs, again, and then trade him, I'm okay doing that. And if I miss the boat and he ends up being solid all year long, I'm okay with that. I'll be able to live with myself. So, speaking of injury bounce backs, though, we've got some potential for a couple of these guys. We're looking at a Luzardo. We got a Glass now. Granted, he's already hurt again.
Yeah, we wrote these back in like January, so we didn't know that was going to happen. But
that was unfortunate. You got Peralta, Chris Sale, even. Of these guys or any other injury bounce back candidates that you're looking at. I mean, are you targeting any of them, or are you just seeing if you can get a discount on them?
I think Sale is a pitcher that I'm targeting. He had Tommy John surgery back in 2020. He came back towards the end of 2021, and then last year he had like 3 fluke injuries, none of which were related to his arm, and he looks very sharp in spring training. So I think he's somebody who could return to the dominant pitcher that he was prior to 2020. So he's definitely somebody I'm targeting. Luzardo is another pitcher that I think is very interesting. He was a top prospect who really, when he reached the majors, he struggled for the first couple of years, got traded to his hometown Marlins, and really pitched pretty well last year, although he didn't get a whole lot of wins to show for it. But he's still very young. He looked good in the WBC.
That's what we call it, parents.
So, and Glass now, you pretty much know what you're going to get from him. You're not going to get a whole lot of innings. But it's going to be quality innings with a lot of strikeouts. So I wouldn't expect him to pitch more than 100 to 120 innings, but he may strike out.
May not even get that this year. We don't even know. I really like Luzardo. I had him for quite a bit of the season last year until he eventually got hurt, and then just kind of, I didn't know, throw him away, unfortunately. But he definitely was that like post-hype sleeper. Like everybody just, was out on him completely. I mean, when you have a 6 ERA in 2021, that's you're not going to get drafted the next season. That's for damn sure. And so, but he came in and pitched very, very well. I do think people are still just, they're hesitant on him for whatever reason, and I'm not. I'm buying in for sure. I want as much of him as I can, and so
I definitely am on board with Luzardo as well. I had him in a dynasty league, long years ago. Got him when he first was back with Oakland. And I just sat on him because I just wanted to see what this guy could do and was super pumped about it. But the injuries just slowed him down, and then the trade, and then the just poor performance. So I was happy to see him go to Miami, and really looking at what he did last year. I'm buying in on him again. I think that he's worth the risk, especially with where his ADP is right now.
Yeah, it's pretty low. It's around the one. Look at the cheat sheet right now. This is NFBC, or actually, sorry, this is Fantrax ADP. It's 126.
Yeah.
I can switch that around and find NFBC. It'll tell me here in a second. NFBC is 149, so not quite as high there. Yeah. So definitely worth it pulling the trigger there. I feel like he's got a lot higher of a ceiling than most of the pitchers going around him. So I do like that a lot. So looking at some guys here too that were really, really good and just don't seem like they're getting, the draft value this year doesn't really represent what they have been producing. And Dylan Cease is one. ADP seems fairly low for a guy who he struck out 225 batters each of the last 2 seasons. 226 one year and 225, I think, last year. Really, really nice ratios last season to go along with it. Yet, like, the ADP is outside of that like elite range. You would think he would be jumping in with, the Striders and the stuff like that, but he's not. He's like after most of those guys, it feels like. What do you agree with that? And if so, why? And if not, also why?
I think what most people are looking at are his kind of his underlying numbers in the second half of last year, where his BABIP he had a very low BABIP. He got very lucky with men left on base and not getting many ground balls. I have not drafted him in the last couple of years. Back in 2021, when he kind of emerged, I had him in a few places. But for me, there's just pitchers in that range that I like more than Cease.
I had him last year in a points league, and he ended up being my anchor, really. He was awesome. And I had actually a couple of guys that were just hounding me all year long, trying to trade and get him from me. And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, this is all I have. I went heavy hitting and it didn't pan out as much as I wanted it to, but he was worth it to me then. And I still think that, Chicago is a decent enough team that he'll be able to get quality starts or appearances. The wins may kind of suffer, but I don't know, though. I mean,
if that team stays healthy, they're going to be good.
Exactly.
So that's the thing.
Yeah. That's what I'm worried about. And, because that's what we've seen from, the Roberts and Eloys in the outfield. They don't have Abreu anymore. So I could see that taking a little bit of a downturn, but I still think, he's in an upper tier for me personally. Probably not, top 2, maybe even top 3, but he's right around 3-4 for me.
Yeah, to me, like I understand, Michael, what you're saying about the the BABIP was like ridiculously low at 260. Left on base was pretty high at 82%. So all there, and that you can see that right in like the FIPS and the XFIPS. They're above 3, and his ERA this year is projected to be above 3. I could easily see that. I also just know that that's actually a pretty good defensive team there, like if they are healthy. So like, yeah, they're going to lose the shift, and so that's going to hurt, but that's going to hurt everybody. Yeah. And even if he goes from like a 2.2 to like a 3.1 ERA, still pretty damn good, especially with those strikeout numbers you're getting. I feel like he belongs in the conversation of maybe not top 10, but just outside of it with the pitching conversation. But he seems to be getting dropped even farther than that. And I personally don't really see him like just totally just falling off a cliff and being just mediocre, like it feels like some people think. But to each their own.
Yeah. So
next up.
All right. So next up, we are focusing on Mr. Shane McClanahan and Alek Manoah. So we're talking about these guys being, top starting pitching targets this season, but who will be who we're actually talking about next season? Like these two.
Very well.
No, you did not. And
I
managed to get way better through it than sentence structure means nothing.
That's what you did to me last week, Robert Acuna, you jerk.
You
Yeah,
should have known better.
A couple pitchers that I think will be going high next year. One is Grayson Rodriguez. He's yet to make his major league debut, but he should be starting the year with the Orioles, and he's just has everything you look for in a pitching prospect. He's got 4 above average pitches and good command, and he's ready. And this year I think it's just a question of how many innings the Orioles are going to let him pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but I think next year he'll be going in the top 100, I think. And the other guy I would mention is Hunter Brown on the Astros. I think he's another guy who looks like he's ready to emerge as a top starter.
He's definitely going to get his chance with McCullers.
Yeah.
On the injured list to start the year, most likely. I like both of those names, and clearly, O's fans here, we like to hear Grayson Rodriguez talk. Something interesting, and this is off script, so tell me to screw off if you don't want to answer it. But you mentioned like kind of prospect guys in the limited innings. Are those guys that you will target in drafts? Expecting them to pitch well when they're in there, and then you'll figure it out when they finally get shut down, or like willing to kind of eat the weeks where they get their start skipped or whatever, or do you just avoid them because you don't want that headache of having to deal with the innings limit?
Again, I think you got to look at what type of league you're in. I drafted both Grayson Rodriguez and Hunter Brown in the fantasy 6-pack league.
Okay.
Because in that league we have an innings limit that we have to focus on.
Right.
So I can afford to have a couple pitchers if they give quality innings, but are limited. Whereas in an NFBC format, I'm probably discounting them more than where I'm not going to be in a position where I'm going to be getting them a whole lot.
Okay. No, fair enough. Yeah, I know in our AJ and I play in the original fantasy 6-pack league. It's like a couple of fans and now a bunch of analysts from the site, and it's head-to-head categories, and so they're nice. Those pitchers can be very good for you like during the season, and they'll get you to the playoffs. And then it's like once you hit the playoffs, they could get shut down, and then it's just kind of like, well, crap. Now what do I do? So they're tough to roster in those leagues too. Even though we don't have an innings limit per se, it's just they're not there to get you the championship, but they got you to the playoffs, and that's tough to deal with as well. So
yeah.
Let's dig a little deeper here, though. We've talked about the Ceases and the Coles and the Burns and all that kind of stuff. Dig a little deeper here, and there's some very young, talented pitchers who are going a little bit later, have had small sample size, but mostly successful. Some names that just popped in my head when I was writing this question. Tristan McKenzie. His last year was good. Years before that, kind of not so much. But George Kirby, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, those types of players. Who do you like targeting those types of players that the sample size of success is small and expecting it to just get better, or do you want more established guys, especially at that range of the draft?
Like last year, McKenzie was a guy that I had quite a bit. Because he was going late, and
not at all.
I thought that he was especially in that organization. Cleveland's great with pitchers, and he was really good in the minors. He was, but like at his last year's price, I liked him quite a bit, but I don't like him too much this year at his price now. Lodolo is a guy that I think has the potential to be very good, but that pitching in a hitter's park with not a great offense, so you have to take that into consideration. Hunter Green is kind of a very, he can be very spectacular, but he can also be inconsistent. Sometimes he loses his command. So I find other people are reaching for him earlier than I would want to take him. And I haven't got too many shares of Kirby either. I do like him, but I'm kind of concerned about how many innings he's going to pitch as well.
Yeah, of these guys, I feel like I'm the most comfortable with McKenzie, maybe followed by Green. Lodolo burned me last year because I grabbed him, and then he was terrible, and I dropped him, and then he started lighting things up a little bit. So
thank you for that drop, by the way.
You're welcome.
I won the league with him.
Yep. It was all part of my master plan to have you win again. Not really, but
how many rows was that?
Three. Every year we've done it.
No, dude, that league's been going on forever.
Oh yeah. This, no, never mind. So I don't know. I the Chicago, the Cincy thing does kind of scare me with the ballpark, and because I saw it last year, but I do have like a sneaky liking for Lodolo. I don't know. Maybe he's going to be like that weird, can't quit this guy sort of thing for me for this year.
Got a few players that I go like, damn it,
just like,
why do I do this myself
every time? But
Lane Thomas,
so
my guilty pleasure in super deep leagues.
Yeah, and I think the safest bet out of this is Tristan.
He's also the most expensive, unfortunately.
Well, yeah,
but I like him too. The stuff is there, but he will cost you quite a bit.
So, speaking of these guys here, we're also looking at what are some of your other favorite late round targets.
I think my number one late round target would be Reed Detmers of the Angels. He's a former first round draft pick out of University of Tennessee. Has a really good arm. He's made a lot of progress. He's made some improvements to his slider in the last year, and I think he's ready to take off. Alex Cobb is he's been around for a long time.
Yeah, that was one of mine.
But he's got he seems to be healthy and seems to have his pitches in good shape at this point.
Pitching in San Fran never hurts.
Yeah. Although this year they have a really questionable defense, which may be an issue.
Yeah.
I feel like he's always had questionable defenses, though. I mean, he's had questionable injury history. He's one of those guys, though. Like a Lodolo is like my OG. I'm a sucker for your somehow skills. I do like Cobb this year, though, too.
Yeah. Another one who I guess I'm a sucker for all the time is Eduardo Rodriguez.
Yeah. I've gotten a couple shares of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had some off the field issues last year, and it definitely impacted his season. But he seems to be healthy and in good shape this year, and he's going real late. So
he's feeling really good this spring so far too.
Yeah.
Which is good to hear. I got a couple, and they play for the same team. And I mentioned one earlier, but Gerrit Whitlock is one. And Brian Bello, his teammate. I know Bello didn't really, show signs of being a good pitcher last year. He had a couple games here and there, but overall it wasn't a good season for him. But I like his skill set. I think he can be really, really good, and he's basically free in drafts, like your standard drafts. He's going free in NFBC, obviously. Deeper rosters, deeper leagues in general, but those are both guys that I think can be very, very productive for you, especially at the cost that you that they will cost you there. Cost you. That's
I know Bellows had some injury issues in spring training, so he's probably going to start the year on the IL.
Yeah, and Whitlock might too, but hopefully you can stash him, or just maybe wait on Bello. Don't worry about drafting him, and then just pick him up because in your home leagues he might go undrafted.
Yeah. The thing I like about Bello is that as a prospect, he was a much improved pitcher in 2021, and then he also got much better in 2022 at the beginning of the year when he got to the upper minors. So he is a guy that's shown the ability to get better.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll move on to relief pitching here. So
for starters,
got a few questions here for relief pitchers, and start again with your strategy for the when we say relief pitchers. I guess we'll just go with the standard saves, like not saves holds, not things like that. I know those are becoming a little more trendy, and I prefer them, but
yeah,
just go with like the closer strategy. How do you target? Or when you enter a draft, what is your mindset going in? Maybe it doesn't always work, but this is what I want to do. What do you think there?
I normally try to get one of the top closers, and I typically will have two closers in the top 10. Doesn't always work. Some out, but yeah, I've been burned where I didn't have closers, and you either spend all your money in fab on trying to get closers, or in a draft championship you're basically stuck, and you just find yourself dropping in the standings.
Yeah, it is tough, and I agree with you, especially in those large field, NFBC leagues or any league that has fab in general. Getting top guys there, so you're not chasing saves all year long, is a safe way to go, and it's probably it is a good draft strategy. I look at it this way, though. In my opinion, you're probably not winning with that strategy, because then it forces you to pass on so much other talent. Yeah. The way you're going to win those large field tournaments is maybe drafting one anchor closer, probably in the top 10-ish, right? I think we can all agree. Presley, Hesley range-ish is probably like the spot where everybody's going, that's kind of like where we really feel safe. Everybody above them is good. And then maybe after that, there's always some question marks, but you kind of have to luck into one, right? And so like for TGFBI, I went after a guy who we're going to mention later, but I went after like Evan Phillips, right? I was just like, well, let me just take a chance. And then later on in TGFBI, I went after his teammate, and just it was like, well, if he doesn't work, maybe this other guy will. So, I just kind of took a chance. I was like, the Dodgers are going to have a good closer. It's just a matter of figuring out which one it is, and so that's the way I went about it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just figure you've got to try to luck into the closer, the second closer that's going to get you, hopefully close to 30 saves. And I tried to do the double closer thing early last year, and the build of my team was not what I was hoping it would be at that point.
No matter what you do, there's your opportunity cost.
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I definitely like having solid relievers, but that doesn't necessarily mean I need to go after 2-3 top closers, because then I run into issues where I don't know which one to play, or I'll play the wrong one, especially in leagues where I only have those two, RP spots and just SP spots. In leagues where I actually have, just a solid pitcher roster, then I'm good. I mean, I can
the 9 pitching spots, which is pretty typical.
At that point, I will lean in. I will get my anchor, and then I'll wait a little bit, and then try to fill in and just not necessarily have to go for another top 10 guy. If there's one sitting there where I like it, yeah, I'll grab it, and I won't be mad about it. But like if I had Edwin Diaz right now, I'd be kind of mad about it. So leading into our next question here,
Slam.
I mean, now that he's injured in the World Baseball Classic, I mean, there's kind of two questions here. The one we have on the sheet, I'll ask first. Who do you think is going to be the next man up in New York, especially now that they don't have Lugo?
I think it's David Robertson. It's a pretty clear guy. And Buck Showalter is definitely a manager who likes to have a one closer. He's not a guy that goes with the committee. I think Robertson's a guy to target.
Yeah, I got burned by that pretty bad. I had Diaz and Slam, and my strategy in Slam is different from a lot of people. I will actually target closers early because I do think there is a lot of value in closers that people don't really realize. And everybody just looks at the innings pitched points and thinks, oh, that's what you got to go after. You got to go after the starters. But relievers actually have a lot of value there, especially the really, really good ones. Yeah. So I got the best. And I forgot that I drafted him.
The best.
And the injury happened last night, and I was like, oh, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. And woke up this morning and was like, oh, wait a minute. Crap. But I wasn't back up. Like, my pick had already passed before the injury, and I woke up this morning, and, of course, Robertson and Ottavino both gone within, like, an hour of the injury. They were, like, the next two picks. And I was just like, of course. I mean, so I took Brooks Raley or whatever his name is, just because I'm in round like 38 right now and I don't have anybody else on the board. So it's just like, sure, he'll probably get dropped in the very first fab run there. But
I mean,
I do agree. I think it is Robertson too. I think he's definitely the guy.
He couldn't even walk off the field on his own. I mean,
it was tore the ligament around his patella.
Yeah, he tore the patellar tendon in his right knee.
Jeez.
During the celebration. How many times have we seen that though? Where
Kendrys Morales
during the celebration, where it's a player or the kicker for Tampa Bay all those years ago. He was a brother or a cousin.
I remember that.
Grammatica, was that his name? Martin.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Wow, I'm amazed I pulled that one out. But the second question here is total sidebar on this, but do you think this will have an effect on the WBC and whether or not like they're going to keep playing it and sending guys? I mean, I know it's pretty much voluntary, right, for the guys to decide if they're going to play or not.
They don't have to.
So, could this be something where, this is going to affect contracts for MLB and, you can't skateboard or do reckless skiing sports or whatever written into your contract. Obviously, that's a little more, in depth. But do you think this has any bearing on the WBC and whether or not people will A, want to play, or B, if it will continue in general?
If teams are going to let them?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a bigger question. It seems like the players really are enthusiastic about it. It's more a question of whether the teams start to put a limit on it. I saw that.
I saw a great quote, and I don't remember who it was on Twitter that said it, and because a lot of people were asking that exact same question, AJ.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, "Look, I'm going to put it to rest right now. Paul George for the Olympic basketball team broke his leg in practice, and there are still tons of players who would drop everything and go play for the Olympic basketball team." So, like, the injuries are going to happen. It sucks, obviously. But I mean, it could have happened in spring training. It could have. Yeah. I mean, he probably isn't like bouncing up and down, and
Well, yeah, you're not celebrating a spring training win. Like,
no, but
that was a hell of a 7-inning game.
I do wonder if they find a way to change the schedule of it so that it's not right up against the start of the season type of thing. And so, if somebody does get hurt, they've got time to recover from it. But I don't know when that would be. I mean, are you going to do it in December? Because where the hell? I mean, you'd have
you're going to do it in either domed stadiums.
Yeah.
I mean, there's enough of them around. I mean, look where they're playing right now. Arizona. I know they played there.
They can. I think scheduling would be something that will get looked at for sure with it. I always think it's funny, like hockey with the World Championships and stuff, and like the Olympics. Yeah, they are not the Olympics.
The Olympics like
stop play.
They basically were just like,
okay, well, everybody go to their countries.
They did. I don't.
Yeah. But I mean, this kind of thing, like, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I really don't. Like, I personally don't watch it for whatever reason. I just don't. But I see the highlights. It's exciting.
Yeah.
A lot of the times are not normally very.
No, they're not. And that's part of it too. Like, if they can get it in, see the problem with it going into
Gerrit, our friend Gerrit here, I believe MLB clubs will start banning playing in the World Baseball Classic unless it's a star that has more power, like a demand they be allowed to do so. Yeah, I mean, there probably will be more discussions.
Like, what is it? Is it a 10-10? Is that what it's called? Where they play for a team for X amount? Because Scherzer was one of them before he traded. Like, you have 10 years of service or whatever with the same club, and then you get to pick your trade destination or something.
It's been a while since I've heard that. I don't remember exactly,
but like that could be one of those power players there. Great point, Gerrit.
Yeah. All right, so let's move it on here. Closer that I think is very interesting to discuss this year is Josh Hader. Obviously for years he was the hands down best closer in baseball. Strikeouts were crazy high. Ratios were unbelievable. Just racked up the saves. Every time he went in, you were like, game over. Yeah. This is done. Last year was a completely different story with him. He struggled hard. Ended up getting traded. There was some signs of like, okay, maybe it was just like a little bump in the road. But it wasn't all smooth sailing even when he got traded to San Diego. What is your thoughts on Hader? Because he's still going as like a top 3-4 reliever off the boards.
He had such a strange year last year where the first half of the year he was completely dominant. He was the same guy, as good as ever. Then he had about a 6-week stretch where he was terrible. I believe he had a baby who may have had some health issues during that time.
I heard that.
Yeah.
And he got traded in the middle of that. But he bounced back. The last month he was dominant again.
Yep.
And then in the playoffs he was really good.
Until San Diego decided not to use him against Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
Hello, World Series. Sorry.
Pulling the Buck Showalter move and not putting in Britain when they should have.
Yeah.
And lost the game.
That is what he
did. See if the Mets bring up Britain back.
Yeah, they're talking about it. I heard that.
Yeah. Might have to.
Yeah, but I'm drafting Hader this year. I think it would be different if he kind of struggled throughout the year, but to me he was himself except for that 6-week stretch where he was awful.
Yeah, once I dug in, like I have Hader in one league. It's a dynasty league, and so I don't know if it's just because I had him and watched him give me. It's a points league, so it was just like negative points after negative point after negative point outing for felt like 2 straight months, and you were just like, what in the hell is going on? And thankfully my team sucked anyway. It's a total rebuild process right now. But so that just like stuck with me. And so this year, when I'm doing my initial rankings and I use projection data and all this other stuff to like build my rankings. I'm looking at it going like, how in the hell is Hader this high? Like, this doesn't make any sense. So I had to do my homework, and you're exactly right. There was a family health complication issue, and you just wonder if that was just enough of a distraction that he just couldn't really focus on pitching. And then you do see the success in September and then throughout the playoffs. I mean, he looked like his old self. So I do think we're going to see him do similar things that he's done in the past. I mean, like, my God, in April and May, he didn't allow a run. That's insane. He had a 0 ERA. I'm looking at it right now. That's just unbelievable. And then he allowed 3 runs in June in 8 innings. I mean, it's crazy. This guy's so good. And then, man, it was just like, it was crazy. 13 runs, 12 runs in the next 2 months. I mean, it was just such night and day. But yeah, I'm back in on him. I had to get convinced. I had to do my homework on him. Dave Eddy and myself and a couple other guys on Fantasy Six Pack had a little discussion about him in leagues. And I was hoping to grab one of those top closers in TGFBI, and he was the one left. And I was like, damn it. Am I really pulling the trigger? And that's when I had to do my homework, and I figured it out. So I did. I ended up pulling the trigger on him, and I'm hopefully we're right, and it was just like distractions. So
yeah, I have him in TGFBI as well.
Nice. It's good to hear.
Nice.
I like that.
So switching back to the other side of New York here. I mean, are we undervaluing Clay Holmes this year?
I'm not a fan. I think other than the beginning of the first part of last year, he's never really shown great command. I'm actually looking at some of the other pitchers in the Yankees bullpen and targeting them as late round guys.
Interesting. Yeah, the cheat sheet does not like him either.
Nope.
So he has not been somebody I've gotten any shares of. It's just, I mean, it could be that the saves are there, but the other numbers are going to suffer. I believe is kind of what's showing there with the cheat sheet. It likes him for saves, but strikeouts are kind of meh. WHIP is not great. ERA isn't that great either. I mean, he could prove us wrong for sure. He's still, he's 29. I mean, sometimes you see pitchers figure it out as they get to that age. It's, like you talk about hitters, 26, 27, 28. Sometimes pitchers, it takes them till their 30s to figure it out. Like, it's just weird. So he might just be one of those guys that just, he's going to you just kind of learn how to pitch more. And so maybe he's figuring it out. I mean, the walk rate did drop last year, so that's good to see. Strikeout rate isn't elite like it is with some of the closers, but he's over 9, so that's at least solid enough. But yeah, I mean, it's not really there for me either. I haven't not gotten a single share of him because somebody ultimately always reaches higher because you just think late Yankees are going to win a lot of games, and so he's going to get 35 saves. I don't think that's a lockdown thing.
I don't agree with it. I mean, I had him last year and rode his hot streak, and then he just seemingly went instantly cold and was just falling out of favor. He just was getting hit, and so I'm out on him this year too. I mean, if I can get him at a super discount, which I don't see happening,
nope, he's not. Yeah, it's not happening.
Then I don't care. Like, I'm fine finding someone else, and even in a points league, I'd rather just collect points on a guy that I know is going to get holds over him because I just don't like him that much this year. I mean, he's on my dead to me list at this point. Almost. I mean, which is once you're there, you're
I mean, if he keeps the role all year long, I mean, he will save a crap ton of games. Let's be real. That's what people are banking on.
The potential is there, but
honestly, I mean, I don't know. The bullpen for the Yankees is not what it once was, but they still got some guys there that I think could fill in if he stumbles. So I think we are in agreement there. I want to ask you, so of course, closer by committee, just question marks with closer positions here. Two teams that came to my mind right away that are, we think, good teams, and you would think if they could figure out who the closer would be, that guy would probably be going a lot higher. But because nothing has been decided and they ultimately have 4 people, that could all do the job, nobody's drafting any of these guys very high. And the Dodgers and the Phillies are the 2 teams that I'm talking about. And so what do you do with those 2 teams? Like, I guess, are you targeting any of those relievers, and who would it be if you are?
Well, I think with the Dodgers, Evan Phillips is clearly the best pitcher in the bullpen, and with the Phillies, it's Sir Anthony Dominguez. It's more a question of whether they're, Dave Roberts and Rob Thompson are going to make them the closers or keep them more in a fireman role. I don't trust that they're going to be that they're going to be given the opportunity to close. I think the guy I'm targeting with the Dodgers is Brusdar Graterol, and with the Phillies, I'm not really targeting him, but I think Greg Kimbrell is going to start the year as a closer.
Mr. Philly fan over here.
Phillies know-it-all, or apparent know-it-all. I agree. Like, Sir Anthony is coming in another year removed from his surgery. He's had his flashes. They brought him along slow. Kimbrell has kind of lost what he was, at his heyday. And honestly, I wasn't super excited that we even signed him. I don't hate it if he can get back to somewhat of a semblance of the pitcher he used to be. But the thing with Thompson is that he's not afraid to move guys around. And I don't know if there will be a definitive closer for Philly.
I mean, he's got 2 lefties and 2 righties between Soto, Kimbrell, Alvarado, and Dominguez. He's
just going to mix and match.
It could very well be that.
I think all 4 of those guys are really going to be valuable. Maybe not as valuable as a lockdown closer, or a QA guy that you're going to be able to get a bunch of holds out of or whatnot. I think both sets of these guys, Sir Anthony and Kimbrell, and then Alvarado and Soto, are going to potentially have a decent amount of saves and holds. As the season goes on, I think if somebody can clearly separate themselves, then Thompson's going to give them a shot, and he's gonna ride the hot hand.
Just to let you know, I've got Kimbrell and Dominguez back to back in my rankings, with Kimbrell 1 spot ahead of Dominguez.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with the rankings component of it because of the name value that comes with it, but I just grabbed Soto in Fantasy 6-Pack Series because Sir Anthony was gone and Kimbrell was gone, and I was like,
doesn't matter.
Looking at who I wanted to grab, and I grabbed him. I was like, all right, fine, I'll take this. But I think with Dodgers, I agree, it's Phillips. Phillies it's harder to gauge right now, but as the season goes along, I think if you have, it's probably going to be a combination of Kimbrell and I think Soto. I think Sir Anthony could be one of those better as a setup guy, than a closer type deal. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. So to finish things off here, Michael, you know, I know you like to try to grab your closers early, but if you miss and you have to pivot your strategy, who are some later round relievers that you're targeting for maybe some cheap saves?
Some of the guys are Albert Alzolay with the Cubs. I mentioned Brusdar Graterol with the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Loaisiga with the Yankees. Domingo Acevedo with the Athletics. But I think probably the most interesting guy is with the Diamondbacks, who have a completely wide open bullpen right now. There's definitely no clear-cut closer, and I don't even know how to say his last name. I think it's Scott McGaugh. He's 33 years old. His only major league experience was 6.2 innings in 2015 with the Marlins, where he had a 9.45 ERA and a 2.40 WHIP. But he went to Japan in 2019, and he saved 69 games over the last 2 years in Japan.
Wow.
So he's a interesting name to keep an eye on in a wide open bullpen.
Yeah,
even bad teams have saved games, you know.
It's McGuff. Scott McGuff.
Jeez.
I'm looking at Baseball Reference. He's got an Orioles hat on, so
yeah,
like that. He's from Pennsylvania. All right.
Yeah, he did pitch for Baltimore. Well, in the minors.
Yeah,
in the minors. Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, I took a stab on Evan Phillips at TGFBI just because there's not a lot to like down there. I mean, like, you know, maybe you get lucky and like a guy like Jorge Lopez grabs some saves over Duran, who I think is ultimately the guy, but he could also just be one of those, like, he's the better pitcher, so let me just get to Lopez, who you know could figure it out and close the game, that type of thing. You know, somebody that is going cheap because we just don't really know right now, right, is the Chicago White Sox, Kendall Graveman.
Yeah,
I mean, you might be able to get some, at least maybe for the first half of the season. Like,
it's not going
maybe
cheap, so.
he's going cheap enough.
Well, yeah.
And with the White Sox, Renato Lopez.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you know, because unfortunately with Hendricks, we just don't know if he's even coming back this season at all. I know he's starting to, like, throw on the side, but it's not like really part of any sort of, like, training regimen. It's just like he's just throwing. It sounds like so he still sounds like he's pretty far away. So, you know, Graveman could be an early season, just he's at least just going to get you saves, right? And who knows, maybe sticks around all year. And I mean, you basically got him, and like his NFBC ADP is still outside the 300. Save and holds leagues, I think he's going much higher because there's you know, you at least know, like, if miraculously Hendricks comes back, Graveman's still in that role and he's going to get you the hold. So I think there's that, but I think Graveman is one of those later guys that I would look at as, you know, somebody who at least can get you by until you need to find, you know, fab closers at some point if you didn't get one or two of the top guys to kind of carry you the whole season. But all right, Michael, that is it for the show, man. I want to thank you for coming on.
Sure.
Let everybody know before you go where they can find your stuff or what you got going on this year and your Twitter handle and all that kind of good stuff.
So I'll be updating the prospect rankings on Fantasy Six Pack on the 15th and 30th of every month, starting in April. And I'll be also writing an article highlighting some of the up and coming prospects as well. And on Twitter, I'm at Mike C. Schneider.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's good stuff. If you guys have not seen his prospect rankings on Fantasy Six Pack, I definitely recommend checking them out. They're good stuff, and the content that he writes to go along with it is good stuff too. Thanks, Gerrit. Appreciate it, man.
Well,
thank
thanks,
you for listening. See you in the draft room in about a weekish.
10 days.
10 days. Yeah, I can do math. No, I can't. All right, so Michael. Have a good night, man. Thank you for jumping on with us. It's always a pleasure.
Anytime. Thanks.
See you, man. Bye. All right. So that is it. It does feel weird, like not talking at least toward the camera, but there's really no way to no good. We tried to do this differently so that we were like side by side, but man, the echo with the mics was just like atrocious, and it's not going to work. You only want to hear our voice once, not 2 or 3 times. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, this was fun, man. Hopefully we can figure out how to do this again.
Absolutely. Monthly thing.
Doubtful. My wife does not like you sleeping on our couch on Thursday nights every month.
No.
Neither do you. So
maybe for different reasons.
But no, it was his wife might want him sleeping on the couch, but not my wife sleeping on our couch. But no, it's kind of cool. Like we get to put the stuff here. Like you see all those like shows on the different networks and stuff like that, and they have all their like stuff on the table. So it's kind of cool and really, really cool. AJ got me the Jobu. It's not even. It's actually not a.
No, it's not.
I realize it's not a bobblehead. It's just like a statue.
It is a statue.
It's just a statue of Jobu. And so the funny thing is that a few years ago, I renamed my team in the Fantasy Six Pack, the original Fantasy Six Pack League, to what is it, like don't steal Jobu's rum. Yeah, don't steal Jobu's rum. And so he saw this and got it for me. So that was pretty sweet. So this will be added to the bookshelf. Jody's gonna look at the bookshelf and be like, "Where the hell did that come from?" Because it's always been like those bobbleheads. So we're gonna have this like dude smoking a cigarette. It's gonna be awesome.
Maybe you should leave it just in the locker closed.
It came with the boxes of lockers over on the other side of the room. So we'll get up later and do that. But all right, man. So that is it for us. Next week, we are talking with Mike Kurland, talking about some ADP movers, spring training position battles. Guys, if you don't follow this guy on Twitter, you definitely should, and subscribe to his Patreon. His preseason spring training tracker sheet alone is worth the money. It is so gold. So definitely check that out. That show will be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. That will be. Are we doing that one on?
We're doing that on a Wednesday.
Are we doing that on a Wednesday? I'm gonna have to confirm that with him because I don't remember why I wrote down 322. I don't know if that was like a us thing or him. I don't remember. Anyway, I will verify and then let everybody know. But we will be doing that show, and then just not much closer to the season. So that's it, everybody. Have a good night, and we will see you next time.
All right. Peace. Cheers.